Welcome back to the Culture of Currency. What a crazy week. What a absolutely crazy week. Friday was nuts on the stock market. We'll obviously talk about that, but it has to do with this right here. Jerome Powell raises hopes of a rate cut, and the markets, well, they really enjoyed that news, kind of like it was a sleeping giant ready to be awoke. So, as we get into this, please remember that this video is sponsored by APMEX, the American Precious Metals Exchange. It is my favorite place to start my journey every single month, looking for amazing, unique items in bullion form, of course, so that I can expand my collection and bring amazing context and content to you. So go check out APMEX. I have a link right here. Check out this QR code and you can go right to it if you like. But it'll also be there at the end of the video and in the description if you're so inclined. Now that we're there, as mentioned, Powell basically just sneezed in the right direction, saying that he's thinking that rate cuts would be appropriate, as many people have assumed that would be the case. And look, take a look at this chart right here. This was after his announcement. That is, just a giant swing on Friday. Giant swing. And it actually made a prediction come true, which was that I thought we would be at an all-time high on the Dow this week, and here we are. So now we'll get into our market report with the actual indices. Here we have the Dow Jones Industrial Average, just as spoken, sitting right here, 45631, up 846 points. Basically all of that, for the most part, happening on Friday. Almost 2% growth. And yes, my friends, the first time all year, we're having the all-time high, 45631, as you see. How cool is that? We've had all-time highs in the S&P and the NASDAQ many times this year. This is the first time for the Dow Jones, so that will be interesting to see. Notice down here, this was our last trading day right there. See how high it shot? That's crazy. And look at the trend. Not bad looking there, folks. Not bad at all. The market likes what it's seeing. S&P 500, 6466, almost a full percentage point, right? Or almost 100 points. And we're at 1.5 percentage points. Not far from our all-time high there as well. And as you can see, markets look good there too. NASDAQ Composite, of course, is next. 21,469, 396 points. We know this one can be volatile at times. 1.88, almost 2% there as well. Very, very close to an all-time high here as well, as you can see. So all three markets look really nice. They kind of are all going on the same path here. That's a really good sign for America. And it's a really good sign, as we can see, for a lot of the countries that have established some trading norms with us. Look at all these nations and their growth. A lot of it also based on some amazing things within America, because we're the number one consumer economy in the world. So when the markets are doing well here and consumer sentiment is up, it means the products from around the world can flood back into the States and be sold, because we're the ones that are buying a ton of it. All right, so Canada, look at there, a 1%. Canadians, good job. We've got Brazil here, 2.47. Now we know they slumped here in the past month or so, so maybe that's just taking back ground. Chile's been killing it all year, and they're 1.28%. Mexico, 1%. So this whole area has just been really thriving, and that's so good to see. All right, now we're coming back over here to more of the European sector. Denmark, 1.32 on Denmark. we've got South Africa right here. South Africa is sitting at almost a full percentage as well. As you can see, we have Sweden sitting at 1.65%, and the UK 1.19% there. Then we go to the Asia Pacific. Asia Pacific, some mixed bag here. China sitting at 1.5%. Hong Kong sitting at almost a full percent. India has been down almost a full percent, and some of that might be the pressure being put by the United States to stop trading oil with Russia, so that Russia's sanctions that are trying to be imposed on oil might actually incur a little bit more towards the peace in Ukraine, but India has been basically propping that up, so that could be a reaction to that, but that's speculation. South Korea doing quite well there, and Taiwan has bit the bullet and went under 0.82%. And I don't know if that's because the U.S. bought some 10% of Intel's semiconductor chips shares or what that is. But we know that we got a lot of our semiconductors from Taiwan, and now that the U.S. is starting to make it, does that mean that Taiwan is not going to be quite the brother to United States that it has been? Don't know that. But now that we've got to that, let's get to our metals, huh? That's why a lot of us are here. Sometimes when the markets do good, we see metals don't, but this is not that day. Silver spot ended at $39.14, almost a full dollar raised. That's 2.57% this week. And as you can see on Friday, we saw almost the exact same movement happening there on the end of the trading day. Wednesday, we saw a little bit of a dip there, but that easily was rectified by the end of the week. How about against the U.S. dollar? U.S. dollar, not so bad. It did gain its place a little bit, but it did not catch up with silver. So silver wins against the U.S. dollar. And because for some reason this didn't track Friday, we'll have to see it next week. But silver being at over 2% would still beat the markets. The markets were around 1.5%. So this being said, we would see the markets under silver. So silver as of right now is winning. Let's check out gold. Gold sitting at $3,387.70. That is a gain of $38 an ounce, or 1.14%. And as you see on Friday, it is the same story. Wednesday, we saw a bit of a dip. By Friday, there was a skyrocket. The U.S. dollar did decent, but it did not quite catch gold, at least not on to Thursday, which this is reporting. When we look at the S&P and the Dow Jones, we're sitting at 1%. With gold, but it looks like if they calculate the S&P against that the markets might actually match or slightly exceed gold this week. So I'm going to have that as a wash, which means our winner this week is silver, folks. Everybody wins here. The dollar was stronger, the markets were stronger, metals were stronger, but silver was the king, and that is a cool place by my book, because all of the boats are floating when the water rises. So that being said, that's what we have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, please remember to stay classy and current with the culture of currency.